we have Médecins Sans Frontières or Doctors Without Borders, an introduction coming your way. For those of you who are not too familiar with MSF, as I will call it from here on, we would like to introduce a little bit of MSF to you. So I'm going to hand the reins over to my colleague, Sharif Satria, to take over. Sharif, all yours.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sharif. I am the Senior Officer of MSF Hong Kong, who is based in Jakarta, Indonesia. Good to see you all today. And once again, thank you and welcome to our IWD 2022 webinar. So in this chance, I would like to take you to get to know further about who is MSF or Doctors Without Borders. So you're able to get to know us better and see how our works will impact to those people in need across the globe. So allow me to start with introduce you to MSF, okay? So next, MSF stands for Médecins Sans Frontières, also well known as Doctors Without Borders. We are an independent humanitarian organization, and we believe all people have the same rights to access the same healthcare and medical needs. There is no discrimination, no matter what the race is, the religion, the culture, everybody has have the same treatment. There are 4 principles as our fundamental in doing our works, which is impartiality, neutrality, independence, and speak out. So those are the main principles of this organization. We are a global movement and we work where we need it most. In 2020, MSF is operating in more than 80 countries all around the world. And we have almost 500 projects that concentrate on countries that need an emergency attention on their healthcare problems. As you can see, our projects are spread out across the continent, and we focus on works in countries that most needed healthcare support. Now I'm going to show you where we are intervening. We bring medical assistance to people affected by conflict and violence, epidemics, natural disaster, or those who have lacked access to healthcare. So we also advocate for equal access to medicines. During the COVID-19 pandemic, MSF contributed to give its value-added service on top of the local support to cope with this ongoing situation. When natural disaster happen, our team will immediately assess the natural disaster impact and location and cooperate to support local authority. MSF has its own logistic team that can support the logistic deployment or supply within 72 hours since the disaster happened. Next, we internally built our professional team that consists of doctors, nurses, surgeons, pharmacists, midwives, psychologists, and even we have our own sanitation experts to support our organization works. Currently, there are more than 3,000 international staffs that work together with more than 37,000 locally hired staff in the field. Further about our works in Southeast Asia. In Malaysia, MSF is supporting general healthcare and medical health support to the Rohingya and other refugee communities. In Thailand, we provide mental health support to vulnerable communities in southern Thailand. In Indonesia, MSF working with the local authorities in improving the adolescents' healthcare and strength the emergency preparedness and response during the COVID-19 pandemic. While in Philippines, MSF is improving sexual and reproductive healthcare in Manila slum dwellers, assisted internally displaced people in Mindanao, and responded to COVID-19 and natural disaster as well. Now, all eyes are on the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. What happened in Ukraine is that their hospitals are facing dangerous supply shortage. There are no signs of war slowing down and they need a sustained response. MSF is remain in Ukraine to provide medical humanitarian assistance to people affected by war, no matter who they are. Actually, we have run a tuberculosis and HIV programs in Ukraine, but unfortunately, these activities were on hold as we have to adapt our response to the current crisis in Ukraine. Our current response in Ukraine includes medical staff, cargo shipments, telemedicine, medical stock, supplies, warehouse, and transport. And also we are assessing other needs, includes possibility to reach other cities that also need medical assistance. We are working to rapidly scale up our medical and humanitarian response based on where we see the greatest need of MSF assistance. So that is pretty much I can share about our organization. I hope with this brief introduction still can help you to get to know better about MSF. And thank you very much. I believe that all of us already cannot wait to discuss with our amazing panelists. So without any further ado, I would like to invite Annie to start our exciting webinar. Please, Annie, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arif. All right, there you go. So that gives you a brief understanding of the work that MSF does in 70 to 80 different countries, the kind of medical aid and healthcare that we provide for communities, and where and who we reach out to. Of course, if you want to know more, please feel free to log into our website. We'd be very happy to hear from you. Drop me a line. I'd be happy to chit chat with you anytime. So moving on, we're going to be talking about women in leadership and women in lead in MSF. I have to say, MSF is very proud to have the women workforce in MSF field work, so mostly on mission work. We're very happy to have the backbone of the program that actually ends up with the women that are coming to join us in MSF. So many women who work for MSF or Doctors Without Borders, I'm going to refer to Doctors Without Borders as MSF because it's much easier for me. So I do hope it's okay. So the many women who work for Doctors Without Borders and in the medical project that we have, they overcome many barriers, all kinds of gender stereotyping. But despite all of these challenges, they actually stand out as change makers. They stand out as advocates in MSF, literally transforming the perceptions about women, ensuring that their voices contribute to making a progress in terms of the programs, and of course, ensure inclusivity and accessibility to all. So we're talking about drivers, we're talking about doctors, nurses, midwives, nurse supervisors. So you can say a massive array of women who represent the field work that we have in MSF, all the way to say finance coordinators, for instance. These are women leaders. They're very critical to the work that we are doing. They sustain the work that MSF is doing, and they also give the commitment to ensure that they provide high quality patient-centered care. So to the women out there who represent MSF in the many countries that we're in the very remote regions that we're in, we thank them. To the women out there who lead MSF, we thank you for your commitment. To the women out there who are with MSF, we thank you for your passion. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to jump into our conversation with our panelists who are with us today. So let me introduce you to the first panelist, Dr. Kathleen Chu Wai Lin. She is the Group Legal Counsel for YTL Corporation Berhad. Dr. Kathleen has been involved in providing education to children via various charitable foundations. She is very involved in contributing towards improving education in the country, and she also believes that every child should have equitable access to good health and education. Next up, we have with us the next panelist coming in, who is Datin Mina Chiafo, who is the Managing Director of In Nature Berhad. Many of you would know Datin Mina and the work that she does. So she is actually a very formidable figure, similar to Dr. Kathleen in the retail industry. She's a managing director of Body Shop franchise, and she's also a very reputable advocate of a range of worthy causes, from environmental to humanitarian, as well as women's rights. I have known Datin Mina personally to be a woman who's constantly at every time advocating about women's rights. Of course, we'll jump into that in a bit and talk to her a little bit more. Next up, not least, we have our own person coming in. We have our own staff coming in. Eliza Chung, who's a nurse with Doctors Without Borders. She's a field worker herself. And we're very, very thankful to Eliza for joining us today, mainly because Eliza is dialing in all the way from Bangladesh because she's on a mission work there. So Eliza, thank you for joining us. Terima kasih for joining us. It's lovely to have you. Eliza's always had a dream of doing medical work in the field. She's been serving in humanitarian aid as seen on medical documentaries. She's actually kept a dream close to her and eventually became a nurse in 2012. And after first graduating from the nursing school, Eliza chose to work away from the comfort of her hometown, landing her in places like Bangladesh. But you know what? Let's explore that a little bit later when we talk to her. Right, so we've got the 3 speakers up, and those are our speakers who are going to be with us in a bit. Before I jump in, I'd have one first polling question coming your way. So to those of you who are able to give me your answers, please drop your answers right now if you can. The polling question reads, do you agree that women's leadership is something that society has not paid enough attention to? And I haven't even finished reading and we're already getting everyone polling in. That's nice. Please do poll in. I wish I can poll for this, but I can't because, you know, I'm sitting here as your host. So I want to know, what do you think about this question? We have, let's see now, that's very interesting. This is going to be an interesting conversation, I foresee. My dear speakers, do you see the answers? Strongly agree, someone agrees, somewhat agree. Okay, let's see when this is ending. Okay, here we go. Results up. Are we ready to get the results in? Yes. So it says 47% says strongly agree, while 53% says agree. I am intrigued, actually. So, right. We will jump into our question and see what our speakers think about this. Do we believe that women in leadership, is something that society doesn't talk about? So I'm just going to jump into the first question with our speakers. Dato Kathleen, Datin Mina, Eliza, I'm going to ask you this first question. And basically that is, do you believe this question? And first things first, okay? Let's start with the understanding of women in leadership before we jump into the poll question. What is, in your opinion, what do you think women in leadership means? What does it portray to you, or what does it resonate? How does it resonate to you? I'm going to leave the floor open. Any one of you can start off.
Okay, let me start.
Okay,
yeah,
go on.
in the early days, leadership was really just something that I did for my business, for myself. I never thought of it as being leadership. But as I've become more comfortable and more confident with what I do, I realized that if we actually want to move the women's movement out, people need to step up and speak out and really put ourselves out into the public space. And so for me now, I think leadership for me means to be visibly championing for women to become leaders and opening the space for women. That's what I think being a leader in the women's movement is. Okay,
that's nice. Interesting that you said it's visibly championing women's issues. Dato Kathleen, what about you? What is your take when it's when I say, what is the perception you have when we say women in leadership? Sorry, your mic is muted, Dato.
Yeah, women in leadership is just doing naturally. I mean, what comes naturally to us? I mean, that's, I don't think, for me, really seriously is that it's about being given the opportunity and the power to do what you're best at, right? So whether, that decision making, if I want to be prime minister, that's what I should be given that opportunity to do. And on the other hand, if I want to be a homemaker, and if that's my preference to lead my family, I should have the agency and the power to make that choice. So I think it's about choice, about giving women the right to decide for themselves and not let gender dictate the role and the leadership role that they will take in the future. That's what it is for me.
Very interesting. You said giving women the right to dictate for themselves. I believe that is a beautiful sentence because that's something that a lot of women can resonate with. Eliza, coming to you with the same question. Your thoughts?
for me, it's like this women in leadership. It involves embracing the role, the leadership role, and the challenges of leading others to achieve something. It's like, it's not always about just leading, but also about coaching, guiding, and inspiring others to achieve their goals and their objectives.
Awesome. Now that we've got the 3 answers coming in from our speakers, I just want to reach out to our participants. Please feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A if you have any questions, or if you want to drop your thoughts about what you think women in leadership means. I'd love to hear that, and I'm quite sure our speakers would love to hear that opinion as well. So please drop in your opinions into the Q&A box. We'd love to hear that. Now, Dr. Kathleen, this comes to you. I just need to ask you this, and later I'll jump to Datin Mina and Eliza. Now, there was a recent survey conducted, so let me just read these numbers to you. Apparently, the recent survey showed that number of women holding senior leadership in positions in Malaysia has hit 37%, and this was in 2021, just recently. This has been the highest ever recorded despite the COVID-19 pandemic affecting economies around the world. So the question lies, do you think women in leadership role is important? And if so, why is it very important?
Of course, it is important. You know, if the world were made up 100% of men, it's fine that men take the leadership roles, right? But, you know, let's look at the facts, right? Women are half the population. I really don't know what exactly the statistic is, but, you know, anybody who, you know, as part of society has a voice and must be given that voice at the table. So, I mean, if I think decisions are really better made when they're made collectively and together. And so everyone's voice has to be heard. And there needs to be this understanding that diversity makes us stronger, you know, not just leading from one particular lens. You know, I suppose for a long time now, that lens has been very male dominated. But let's look at, you know, the world with a different lens. And definitely women make up such a large population, and we have to be at the table.
All right. I like the fact that you said diversity matters and visibility matters. Eliza, let me take this to you. Again, coming back with that question, if it was, you know, if it was the 37% that hit in 2021, and the strange part is that this is despite the COVID-19 pandemic, in your opinion, you know, we've heard from Dr. Kathleen, and to her, gender difference is good. I think I completely agree with what she said. Having different opinions coming in from 2 different genders, there is a difference there in terms of the perception of the situations that people handle. In your opinion, why do you think women in leadership is important? Why do you think that women leading a particular issue or a particular area or a particular industry may make a difference?
Okay. Actually, recently we have just received some of this, you know, statistic from the HR department in Bangladesh, which really shows that they actually the gender distributions in MSF is really 100% unbalanced. Like, for example, like the logistic department here, we have 73 national staff, and all 73 are like male. And then we have a department, but this is like a special case, it's a women's health department, and we have like 20 something of staff, but it's all women. So it really depends on what kind of department. But of course, like I always believe that different genders, they think in different ways. But when you are in a positions of leadership, it's also it's critical to obtain their opinions and thoughts from others, and not just mainly because you are a man or you are a woman, or you only listen to one side. So it's really depending on the position on where you are, because we see things from different perspectives and also have different experiences. So having a variety of voices is always valuable.
I agree. I completely agree. I think let's just face it, we women think differently when it comes to any issue. Yes, we have the maternal side of our instinct kicking in, and we still are able to think, you know, when it comes to a particular issue, we're able to think practically maybe. I don't know. I mean, if there are any men in our audience right now, I'd love to hear from you. All right, but no, we're not male bashing here. So please don't get us wrong. We're not male bashing here. Now, Dr. Kathleen, Dr. Mina, and Eliza, the three of you are, let's just say all three of you are formidable, and of course, you're all leaders in your own way. You're all leaders in your own industries. You're all leaders in your own cause. You've done a lot of work with people, communities. Now, one of the questions I have for you is this. In your opinion, in your personal opinion, what do you think were the main challenges, or are the main challenges for women, for female leaders, for instance? What do you think are the greatest challenges when it comes to leading either in a particular industry, leading a particular team? Maybe you can share some thoughts. Let's start off with Datin Mina. Datin, would you be able to take over?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest one for me is really societal norms. Trying to battle against like what Eliza was saying about transportation, all men, right? Quite likely because the selection for that group of people were mainly men because of the pipeline, the funnel that goes in, and then women dealing with women's issues. Oh, you should be a nurse, you should be a teacher, and therefore more women go into that area. So I think it's societal norms that's really the biggest challenge facing women now, rising to the top. A lot of women in the mid-levels, a lot of women holding up half the sky, but only at the mid-levels. I think if you go up higher, if you look at C-suites, there are less women there. And also it goes back to choice. More power to the women who want to be career orientated, and so too to the people who actually want to be mothers and feel that family is very important. So, but we need to make sure that the pipeline is open so that as we go closer to the top of this glass ceiling, there or not, there are more people there and more support. And which brings me to the second point that I want to make is institutional support. There is very little support for working women. You look at childcare. Primarily, childcare responsibilities even now still fall back onto women. I'm a grandmother now. I'm free of all childcare responsibilities. But when it comes to my grandson, I find I'm still the one sitting down and trying to get him to read and to do his 2+7, and how has that happened again? Another cycle, and I'm still doing the same thing. So it's a choice that we make. My husband is quite happy. His grandfather is quite happy to let him be ignorant. It doesn't bother him that he cannot read that well. He says it will happen. But so is this me, or is this societal expectations? But when we go, the teacher always wants to talk to the mother, and is this kind of institutional expectations as well. Childcare is left up to the women to look after. Even maternity, we have maternity leave. Why don't the government give parental leave and leave it up to the family to decide who is the best person to stay home and look after the child? But this is an example of what I mean by institutional support. We need to be giving parental leave and not just maternity leave or paternity leave. So two things. Societal and institutional.
Very interesting. Congratulations on the grandchild, by the way, before I continue. But again, this is something that I see a lot, and I think a lot of us see, that it's always, as you mentioned, that it's always the burden lies on the woman, the burden lies on the grandmother, on the mother. It's always the women folk that are asked to constantly uphold these kind of roles. So yes, I believe what you mentioned about societal norm is something that's highly expected of women. And I think it takes a larger scale of mindset change. Even if you want to start changing that, it takes a great mindset change, or even a gender change, instead of gender stereotyping, into ensuring that we change these norms.
Yeah, men and women.
Yes.
Fathers and mothers. I sometimes it boggles my mind that men who have daughters treat their wives badly. They love their daughters to bit, but they treat their wives less respectfully than they want their daughters to be. I mean, it blows my mind, you know. So men and women, we've got to do it collectively. Women cannot and should not be expected to be running leadership programs by ourselves. We should not be talking to ourselves.
Very true. Dr. Kathleen, coming into you, the same question. And again, we're talking about gender stereotyping. We're talking about how, society expects a particular norm from the women. Now, again, I need to ask this. Is it because we are on the Asian side? Is it because it's our Asian side that's kicking in? Is that why it is? Maybe it's not the same with the Western world, but is it that it's something that's expected because of the fact that we're all Asians, and that's what women are expected to do. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I can't agree more with Datin Mina. I mean, stereotyping is really something that I think we face all the time, and then it can be negative or positive, but it is still there. I mean, this is the role that we expect you to play, and this is something. It's not even kind of roles. It's got to do with when men call other men that they're acting like women. I mean, that is, do you
That's
have
insulting. Yes.
Yeah. And then the other way is, I mean, I'm a lawyer. And one of my colleagues who used to be a partner in an Australian law firm, okay, so that's a Western kind of lens. And she said, one of the other partners used to come and say to her, why can't you act like a man? Why are we being judged against the male yardstick, right? I mean, is there anything wrong with acting like a woman? But it's made to sound like, if you're a woman, that means you're kind of weak. If you're a man, you're making a good, strong decision, right? Yeah. And so that type of stereotyping, I think, is a challenge. And it's kind of hurtful, I think, for women who are really doing their best at the top of their profession, for someone to be saying that to them. I mean, really, and it's across, I think, Western and Eastern societies. But I do think that on this issue, the other huge challenge all women face is childcare, right? As Datimina said, how do you free yourself from, I think that women just feel responsible. And I think that for the children, and that's such a positive thing, and people should celebrate us for that, right? That you can't let the child not know how to add 7 + 2, but the men can, right? And if we take the effort to bring them up, to make sure that their fundamentals are strong. And when they go to school, I mean, who's going to be responsible for that, right? And it's always women, and the women who do that tend to also be kind of at work, trying to make all the staff do 7 + 2 as well.
Constantly we are constantly, that maternal instinct always kicks in. Now I have to take this to Eliza. Eliza, you have been in a leadership role as well throughout your career during various missions. Could you maybe sort of give us a little bit of insight into how it has been for you, trying to get into this role, and how challenging has it been for you? I mean, Datin Mina and Dato Kathleen, they are basing it against the background of work that they've also worked with. So I'd like to, of course, find out more about you, and I'm quite sure everyone's quite intrigued on how it works for you in terms of the challenges as a female, as a leader, or as a person who's leading a team, for instance.
Okay, thank you so much. So taking my own experience as an example, like the challenges for that female leaders face are, I would say, numerous. Gender bias, inequality is the main challenges I think faced by most of the women in their career. So although I am a nurse, a profession dominated by women, but I am currently in the managerial positions and interact closely with other leaders, local leaders, supervisors, managers, coordinators, important people from the Ministry of Health, and then the majority of them are men. So sometimes when I need to go for important meetings with them, And then the partners, when they saw a woman, an Asian, and then a nurse sitting at the meeting table, they kind of like they give you like a judgmental look, and then they would not talk a lot actually, and then they would just ask for another meeting with someone from a higher positions, or at least for medical issues, they want to see a senior female doctor. So sometimes when you have a little bit of age, they kind of respect elderly women, but then when they know, so sometimes they ask you a question, so you are a doctor? They say, no, I'm a nurse. They were just like, okay. We will arrange for another meeting, yeah. Yeah.
Eliza, it happens even now, even to me, right? I think it was last month, I met someone from the UN, very high up, very important lady. And we were at the dinner. And at the end of the dinner, as she was leaving, she was handing out her business cards. And I was sitting at a table with 3 other men and myself. She handed her business card to the man, skipped me and handed it to the other man on my right-hand side. So I actually had to stand up and say, excuse me, could you give me your card?
Wow.
So, it happens all the time. People dismiss you, and it's an assumption that they make. And it was by another woman, and I was absolutely shocked that it was by a woman working for the UN. Wow. Who has these equality agenda. Come on. And it shocked me. So I think what we need to do as women is that we need to claim our space. Men are very good at that. They don't let these things go. Women, especially Asian women, we tend to say, never mind lah. She made a mistake. No, we've got to stand up. I know it makes me unpopular because I call out people's bad behavior. But the thing is, I'm not going to stand up and take it and just say, never mind lah, and ask my husband to show me her card later. No, I am my person in my own right. And if nothing else, it was just plain rudeness. Yeah. Yes. So, we experienced it. I experienced it even right until today. So it's quite normal. But I think what we have to do is for not just for ourselves, but for other occasions and for other women as well. If I weren't like such a meow kind of person, I might have let that slip. I might have just said, never mind. But because I'm the sort of a fighter that I am, I actually stood up and said, excuse me, you missed me out and I am here at the table. So I don't know, it's a battle, it's hard. And we just got to claim our space, and that's something that I think women are not good at. We sit back, we are modest, and we don't talk about our achievements. We don't say, we don't put up our hands. We put up our hands for the work, but we don't put up our hands for the credit. So I think that is a challenge that women ourselves, we have to learn to do.
I am highly inspired by the 3 of you. And remind me never to cross swords with you, Datin Meena.
Yeah. Okay, I do have very many friends, Annie.
We have one question coming in from one of the participants, Grace Liu. So she's got a question. It's an open question. I believe she's asking all 3 of you. Who inspired you to be a leader and why? Grace, I'm assuming this is towards the 3 speakers. So I'm going to get the 3 speakers to just answer that. So who inspired you to be a leader and why? So Dato Kathleen, would you like to start off? The person who, or people or whoever inspired you to be a leader and why?
Yeah, I think I was really fortunate to grow up in a family where we had really strong women. I think the biggest inspiration would be my maternal grandmother. And she was a teacher, but she started, she was from Indonesia, and she went off to China to learn nursing. And there she met my grandfather. She fell out with her dad, and then she came to Malaysia, and she never went back again. But, she forged her own way. And, she was a teacher, but she was a fierce teacher. And right down to when she was almost 90, she was still teaching. She never stopped. And she said, as long as I can teach these little ones, why should I stop? And then she would also, not just that, she'd be reading about the stock market. When my husband would come, she'd talk about, his shares. And so one time my husband was inspired to give her a block of shares because he said, she's so interested, so let's give her these shares and she can actually watch, how they perform. And so she was a real strong woman. Her husband died when, she wasn't that old, and then she just carried on. So she was my huge inspiration. And then, my mother was one of the first from her town to go abroad to study. I mean, she was lucky. Again, she was trained as a teacher, but she was given that opportunity and she grabbed it. And so I think it's the other strong women in my life who's given me that inspiration and just said to me, there's nothing that needs to stop you.
Beautiful. Datin Mina, what about you?
My dad. My dad was a police officer, and I actually could see the difference that one man can make, and it was quite amazing. He had many people come to see him and ask for help, and sometimes it's very simple. And I could see the difference that he actually managed to make, and he always encouraged me. He told me when I was like, after my Form 3, I was like 15, going on 16. He told me to hitchhike from Ipoh to Penang. And I say, oh my God, Daddy, that's very dangerous. I'm a girl, you hitchhike. And he was saying, yeah, what are you going to worry about? People are generally good. So he was the one who actually gave me that sense. I was already quite conditioned to girls. Oh, you have a danger, of getting raped and all that. So you must be careful and all that. But he was the one who said, no, go live your life fearlessly. Do what you want to do. And so it was him that gave me a perspective on life. He never treated his sons differently from his daughters. So I grew up always expecting that I had a right to be at the table. So so he was my biggest inspiration.
Very, very different from most fathers, I'm quite sure. Eliza, what about you? Who has been your greatest inspiration?
I would say it is the person who asking this question. She's my sister, actually.
Oh, hey, with us.
Yeah. Before we met each other, we were separated for like 25 years. And then after we found each other, actually, I have someone that really can understand what I want to do. Because I can say that since as I can remember, I wanted to be the odd one, the special one. I don't want to follow like what my aunties or friends around me doing, just get study and then you graduate and you find a boyfriend, get married, get the children, and then you buy a house and then that.
Wow,
then that's your life.
The
usual cycle, yeah. So actually, she pushed me a lot, like, yes, go and achieve your dreams. We can do that, And of course, I have a pair of parents that they are very supportive and open-minded. My mom would just say, you do what you want to do. I just support what they can support. Mm-hmm. And then I would say, yes, definitely my family, my sister, they pushing me a lot. I mean, they give me inspirations to go ahead and do what you want to do, and go and look at the outside world and learn, and not just staying in the comfort zone. Because I think without them, I would just stay, the cycle of women.
Just follow the cycle. Okay, for those of you who are not sure, and this goes out to Dato, Kathleen, and Datin Mina, Eliza's got a beautiful story, actually. Eliza's one half of a twin, right, Eliza? And Grace, thank you so much for that question. It's beautiful to have you with us. Thank you very much. And I have to say, the story for Eliza, if you're able to read on our website, it's absolutely lovely. It's a beautiful story where she got together with the sister, and both are working with MSF, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right in saying that? Both of you are with MSF, or Grace has moved on to taking a sabbatical of some sort?
Grace is actually recruited as a health promoter and is waiting for her first missions to be matched. Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah, soon we will be the legit twins without border.
Oh,
Yes. Now that's
wonderful.
something that we can work on. It's a beautiful story. If you want, you can, do read it up. We do have, another question coming in, Datin Meena. This is, I'm assuming this is from you. How can women show more support for women leaders?
Actually, this is okay. It's not from me, but
Is that from your office then?
yeah, maybe
Okay.
but I don't know how they managed to get my handle on another line. It's
Yeah. So okay. So the question.
well, I guess good question anyway, regardless of where it comes from. I think we just need to let other women know that they're not alone, because
Yeah.
sometimes leadership is very lonely. You sit down there, and it's helpful to have people along with you on the journey. So that's why having a group of friends or a mentor is actually very useful, so that you don't feel that you are doing this all by yourself and that you are doing it alone. It's I agree what Eliza said, that it is not just all about you leading from the front. It's also coaching and encouragement and so on. But sometimes it's exhausting. Who is there to encourage me? Who is there to for me to share my troubles with? And you can't share problems down the line. You don't want to worry the people who look up to you for guidance and inspiration. But yet, the true fact is that we don't know everything, and we can't do it all by ourselves. So how we help other women along their journey is to make sure that that there's support, that we can be mentors. If you can mentor other women, or else be part of a group that's supporting women. Just a call, just something to reach out to. I have an issue, I have a problem. And I think that really helps. Loneliness in leadership for me is a great problem, and that's alleviated when you have friends and support, and other people going along the journey with you.
Interesting that question came in, because it's going to just lead into my next question to all three of you. Do you think that women in leadership, as leaders or as heads of a particular company or teams, do you think we have different leadership styles when it comes to handling, say, a particular situation? So Eliza, in this case, maybe you can start off this conversation. If you are leading a particular team and you are in the team, I mean, you're in field work at the moment. So if it is a particular crisis situation, for instance, do you see that there's a difference when it comes to a woman handling it versus a man handling it? Again, for the ones who are with us today, please understand, I am not male bashing. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to get the different perspectives of both genders. So Eliza, yes, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that when we face with the difficult situations, I believe women have more patience. Okay, but at least from what I experienced, because women may show more empathy and sympathy when dealing with crises or critical situations, and which can be a strength and also a weakness for me, because people may overlook the value of empathy and sympathy. That's why I always remind myself to stay calm, not to make any decisions or say anything stupid from my mouth when I am emotionally unstable.
Yeah.
Because when I'm angry, I always excuse myself, like walk away, take some fresh air outside, because you never know what can come out from my mouth when I'm angry. That's why.
Yeah, when dire situations come in and you have no choice, I'm quite sure your emotions will run as well, because you work in a situation where sometimes decisions need to be made immediately, and sometimes it leads you into a crisis situation because you're in the field basically on a mission. So I can completely understand that. Is there a particular style that you apply to when it comes to these kind of situations in your course of work, for instance?
Like for now, we are actually running an emergency scabies campaign in the refugee camp. And it's like when you walk into the clinic, there's like 10 of your staff talking to you, asking for something at the same time, and then you have 100 patients waiting outside. Another 50 is yelling at the dispenser why they have to wait so long. So it's just everything that come to you, but you have to settle it one by one. So sometimes like I have to like take a look at around, and then I have to think quickly which one which one is more important. We always say about prioritizing which one is more important. And of course I have to like, okay, this is not life and death. We can settle it one by one. And then of course I always say we need to learn how to delegate our work, because sometimes you always think that I need to do this by myself, you know, there's only I can do this and nobody else can do it, and only I can do it. It's actually not that way. Actually, people can, I mean, nobody is irreplaceable. Yeah, we have to accept that. Yeah, and then of course we need to trust. We need to trust our staff, trust the people around you, trust your colleagues that they can share your burden. They can actually help you when you needed the help.
Awesome. I have to say, hats off to you, Eliza. I'm sure it's not easy when you have 10 people coming at you first thing in the morning, even before you have a cup of coffee. So yes, I can completely understand. Coming to you, Dato Kathleen and Datin Meena, I'm going to start with Dato Kathleen first. When we talk about leadership styles, what is that one leadership style that you apply to when it comes to, say, I won't say crisis situations, but maybe, you know, difficult situations at work that you need to handle because you are in the legal side. So, you know, is there a particular different style that you apply to? And do you think that maybe women are a little more, you know, adept at handling it differently?
If you talk about the law, maybe, you know, I couldn't point to something particular about women. But I mean, I generally agree that women are more empathetic. And I think in any crisis, I mean, you know, it could be, I mean, a legal crisis, you know, being empathetic with strength, you know, is really, really important. I think sometimes men go at it and then, you know they need to make decisions, they need to make strong decisions, and they don't listen as much. I think listening, you know, is really, really important. And you know, now you know, as you said earlier, I do quite a lot of work in education, and one of the things that's being stressed over and over again is that, you know, empathy in children is really important. That's what we need to teach, empathy. And yet somehow when we say that, when it comes to kind of women in decision making, you know, we are criticized sometimes as being too soft, too empathetic, but I don't know. I mean, can we really be too empathetic, right? We need to understand how the other side feel. I mean, I think that's really what humanity needs and lacks. You know, just a recent example, right? There's this war in the Ukraine going on now. And then every day you read about the women and the children that are being affected. And I just wonder sometimes if it was a woman on the other side having to make that difficult decision in that crisis, do we send those missiles in or not? And where are they going to be? And who are they going to affect? You know, would a woman make a different decision? And yeah, and I do think that, you know, there would be more consideration of the impact of human suffering if it was a woman having to make that decision.
All right, how interesting. Well, I will not argue about Ukraine at the moment because, you know, knowing how the situations are at the moment and reading about, you know, the what's going on in Ukraine. Of course, MSF, as Sharif mentioned earlier in his introduction, we are doing a lot of work in Ukraine right now and hoping that, you know, we can continue assisting the communities in Ukraine itself by providing proper medical aid and healthcare. So hopefully, you know, we are able to, MSF is able to help where we can. But I do understand when you say that women are a little more empathetic, and I think Eliza's right that we are able to maybe determine different scales of severity when it comes to a particular case to see or particular situation and work around it. Datin Meena, in your case, a similar question, you know, do you think that maybe women can apply different styles, or are women also able to be, you know, sort of put away the the soft part of it. Now, I don't mean to say that in an insulting way, Dr. Kathleen, I know you're going to jump at me, but
Annie, I think, as women, if we can deal with fighting children and sullen and surly teenagers, and we make life and death decisions with in terms of healthcare for our aged parents and our younger children, what is a crisis? I mean, especially if you're dealing with a business crisis, as women, in our own personal lives, we deal with so many things.
Yes.
So, and if you can negotiate who gets this toy, whose right is it to be having the controller, business decisions are actually not difficult. So I think we are equipped. The skills that we bring to the table are very different. Like Dr. Kathleen says, we have empathy, we think more about family, we think more about the wider picture. You look at world leaders like Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand and how she's handled crises and so on. I think that's a wonderful example of a young woman dealing with what you have to do. And in a crisis, women are excellent at multitasking. All right. And in a crisis, it's not just one thing that's happening. Yeah, it's many things happening at the same time. And I think women have a very, we have a good grasp and ability to actually multitask. So I think, in terms of leadership styles, it's not so much different managing your life, your household, as it is managing a business. We sell ourselves short. We sometimes lack the confidence. We suffer from imposter syndrome. We think we cannot translate the home skill sets into a corporate skill set, and I think that's wrong. I think the skill sets that women bring to the table are different from men, and I think it's equally as valuable.
I'm very happy.
The thing is sometimes empathy. There must be an end. There must be a decision-making time. You can empathize and empathize and empathize, but when it comes to that point in time, you need to make a decision, and sometimes it could be a hard decision. It's not a sympathetic decision, but and that is when I think we need to as women be able to draw the line and say here, and then decision time.
There you go. I made my decision. Yes, I think it's interesting. Now we do have another question coming in, and I do believe this is to Eliza specifically. It says, have you ever been afraid on the job? How do you then ground yourself? Eliza, would you like to take this one? We can't hear you, dear. I think the mic is muted. Okay, let me just repeat the question. It says, have you ever been afraid on the job, and how do you then ground yourself?
Yes, I mean, I admit it every time when I am about to sign on for a new mission, when I'm going to a new country, I always share with my sister that I don't know whether I can do it this time, because you are doing some things that you never faced before.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in South Sudan with active conflicts running around, and then we have to deal with not only the stress from the work, but also the security situations that might escalate very fast. And then, I mean, from my experience, sometimes we have to deal with not only medical problems, but also some security problems that need you to take immediate action. That sometimes, like just now, Datin Mina was saying that being empathize, then usually I am the one that I need to stop the empathize from my other staff. That no, we cannot do this because we are in this kind of context. We have limited resources, and we have to make, I know it's a difficult situations, difficult decisions, but we have to do it. I always need to explain to them. We have to clarify, is this what we want to do or we need to do? Yeah, because yes, we want to save everyone, but we cannot. Yeah, and then, I mean, I have some difficult times that, after I've taken such a decision, I have colleagues blaming on me, like, you shouldn't just take away the chance from that children, you know, that not giving them a second chance. But I just have to, sometimes it's like, you know, after explaining to them why this decision is made, then I need to like walk away. You know, sometimes I feel like I wanted to cry for, you know, not doing all that we can, but actually the electricity just went off. So it's really a matter of how you digest. I mean, usually, I mean, I have my downtime. I mean, I hide in my room, I hide away from my colleagues. You know, sometimes I need some alone time that you just have to digest it. I mean, everyone have their own ways of digesting bad things. So for my way is like, I will hide away, like not socializing at all for like maybe one day, and then I will feel better. You just have to find a balance that, okay, this is a job. This is not like a blame that you need to take on forever, that you have killed someone or that you are not, you know, doing all the best you can. But we are actually already doing all the things that we can to help people that coming to us. Yeah.
It might not be easy. Now, actually, I'd like to just pull back into what Datin Mina spoke about earlier in our initial conversation, where she said, you know, when you're a leader, you really don't have anyone to talk to because people look up to you, you know, so you can't talk to them because you don't want to share the troubles to your staff and then worry them, you know, and it becomes a little bit of a lonesome space. Has that ever occurred to you, Eliza? Like, you know, you're in a mission, you're on the field, you're working in, as you mentioned, South Sudan, for instance, massive conflict area. And has it ever happened where you have a particular issue you want to talk about, you need someone to sort of just debrief with, but, you know, you felt that it's very difficult? And if that has happened, how did you handle that kind of a situation? Because I mean, I can only imagine that it would have been really difficult for you.
I mean, I have like my line manager with me. Usually I can share and discuss things from work. Even sometimes, you know, after work, we were just, because we were living in the same compound. So sometimes like, you can find someone that maybe they are not 100% understanding what you are talking about, because if it's the medical department, they will not understand about like a HR department would not understand your medical department of things. But it's just that you just need a pair of ears listening to you. You just need to rant it out and say it out. And then they will just say, oh, I mean, sometimes we don't need their opinion. We just need you to listen to us. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's a yes. It's like, I mean, I have a few experiences that we have to do what we call it a shitty decision. Yes, that make everyone like kind of like judge you. Why are you making such a decision? But also we have clearly stated in the MSF guidelines, in MSF, when things happen, it's not about what do we call it? It's not about open. It's not for open for discussion. It's not democracy. That's no. When the situations come, the decisions have to be made, and you have to respect to your leaders. You have to respect to your boss, and you should not question on the spot. But of course, a discussion can happen afterward. That's why we always holding on deadlines. When the decisions need to be made, you need to respect it.
Interesting. I can only imagine how it would be for you. I mean, I personally have not been on the field as much as I'd love to. Wendy, hint, hint. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I can imagine how it is. I mean, jokes aside, I can imagine how it is when you're in a situation and when you're dealing with a team, and then you're dealing with people who look at you and expect response from you. Now, since we are on this topic, I'd like to just also ask you this. Maybe you can just give us some insight into how MSF actually trains local staff, for instance, in the countries that you were in. How do they train, and give equal opportunities to both men and women in terms of learning, say, new skills or providing, medical aid to the patients. Maybe just take us through a little bit of an insight into that, Eliza.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, MSF, we are always talking about capacity building. I mean, to be honest, I only learned about these terms after joining MSF, because at first I was wondering, what should I build? Like, I'm not a constructor. What should I build? But it's actually it's a training to build up their skills, learning new knowledge. So yeah, our training is actually open to everyone. We never set a gender barrier, even for positions that traditionally associated with men, like such as the security, which we call the watchmen and drivers. We stated in our job posting that women are encouraged to apply. But since the start of COVID, we moved all the training online. Most of the training online, and opportunities remain available to all. And at time, the managers must act as advocates for female staff, encouraging them to participate in training. Female staff are typically more passive from for the context that I'm working in, and we're also working to change the mindset so that it is completely acceptable for women to train the opposite gender. Because here it often happens, are you sure that the female staff or female supervisor, they will say, are you sure I can handle this training session? I can talk in front of the men. You say, why not? Like, you have one head, everyone have one head, two eyes, two ears. Yeah. So it's just like, their mindset that, women have to stay, you have to sit at the back and listen. So it's still ongoing working. It's ongoing work to change their mindset. And then also frequently female staff, they come to us and express their nervousness or ask, if there's really okay for them to do this, to do that. So it is unfortunate to hear such biased statements, but it is one of their concerns, as they have been told since they can remember. Like, maybe their mom says that you shouldn't talk a lot in front of the men, or you shouldn't show off in front of the men. You should be quiet and show that you are polite. But for me, I always tell my staff, go ahead. Why you want to let the men do it? We can do it.
There you go. We can do it.
Yeah, that's why I am very proud of my female staff who bravely accept the challenges of leading and conducting things that have never been done before. Because after the session, I am very proud that I can see the shine in their eyes and their proud smiles. They will talk about that for months and months.
Awesome.
Yeah.
See, I'm getting goosebumps while you're telling me that. I get goosebumps all the time. Now, we've got one more question coming in. When you began your career many years ago, did you ever imagine that you would have a leadership role in this profession or organization? I believe this question is open to all three of you. So maybe I'll start off with Dato' Kathleen. Would you like to take on this question? So once again, just read up the question to you. When you began your career many years ago, did you ever imagine that you would have a leadership role in this profession or your organization? Dato' Kathleen?
Yeah, I think that was always the aim. I'm in the legal profession, and now I'm in-house and an in-house counsel. But when I started, it was in practice, and all young lawyers, I think, male and female, we just aspire to be a partner in the law firm, and that's what you work towards. And so I think it has never occurred to me that I need to stop kind of striving for this. And so I've just been lucky that I haven't had to really fight a lot, because I started as the sole legal counsel in YTL many years ago. There was only me. So everything kind of dropped on me, and over the years I've just continued to stay in that position, being the most senior in the department. where I am. So yeah, in a simple answer, yes, I did expect to be where I am today.
Okay.
And
So
I was willing to work for it. I was willing to work for it.
we knew where we were going. Datin Mina, your turn now. Did you actually have that much, like, drive as Dr. Kathleen? I mean, I could feel it while she's talking. Like, she was really
I actually did not have an idea that we would be 120 130 stores and in throughout Southeast Asia and doing all the things that I'm doing now. That was never my ambition. My ambition was to just have control of my own time, so that I would be able to choose what I wanted to do and when I wanted to do it. And so that's why, in the beginning, I was saying the things that I did for leadership, I did for myself. It was with no big plan to say I'm going to be a feminist, I'm going to lead women, I'm going to break the glass, nothing like that at all. It was just doing what I wanted to do so that I could have control of my own destiny, so to speak. But it was never, okay, I'm going to make $10 million, I'm going to make, and this, nothing like that. It was just, like a snowball rolling downhill. So I it's not very sort of like, it's not very business school, plan. I just opened one shop, then I opened two shops, then I opened 3 shops, and 6 and 12 and 13 and so on and so forth. So I never had a big plan beyond doing what was necessary, because in the early days it was really hard, and like Dr. Kathleen, I was one person and basically just doing everything and no time to think, no time to strategize. Every morning, 10 o'clock, come in and open up the shop, and then the 10 o'clock at night, lock up the shop, and you're so exhausted, you just flop on your bed. And in the meantime, I had children, I had a husband, I had family, and my dad, my mom, and so on. So no big plan. I did not know where I would end up, but I'm very grateful for where I did. And but I won't say that I just stumbled into everything. I think in everything that I did, I did it to the best of my ability. And now when I look back, even the things that I beat myself up on that I didn't do very well, like my kids were never the best dressed, they never brought the best cake to school, and I never knew all the teachers' names, and I used to be full of guilt about that. But I now realize that even when I thought I wasn't doing well, I actually was doing pretty good. So my kids are all grown up now. They are they are good. They are good men. They are good feminist men. So so I must have been doing a good job, even though I thought all throughout that I was inadequate. But now I realize that I was. So I don't think people need to set out with a great grand plan, because life gets in the way of your plans.
Yeah.
So like I was saying earlier, I really admire the work that Eliza does, and I thought that I would be able to do something like Eliza. I would go to somewhere, India, and I would, work with Mother Teresa and volunteer and all that. And I tried a small project, and it was the most horrible experience of my life. So I know I'm not cut out for that. So, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to actually have dreams that don't work out, and it's okay to actually have this illusion of myself shattered, but I'm good in other ways, and I embrace what I'm strong at, and I appreciate that there are other people I can help Eliza in other ways, and I guess that's what women need. We need to have a sisterhood. We need to be there. Sometimes, like what Eliza was saying, you just need to listen, to be an ear, a sympathetic ear outside of the organization, because you cannot be talking about all the troubles that your organization is having to all your staff and your colleagues, and you certainly cannot be talking it up to your boss. And then your boss will be thinking, hey, hello, I sent you there to handle this, and you come back with all these problems. I mean, is it going to explode or what? So, you need to find an outlet. And then I go back to this whole sisterhood that we have to develop. because we cannot do it by ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, we need to have sideways, we need to have family members, we need to have friends to support us, to let us know that we are not alone on this journey.
Very
So,
true. Very true. I have to say kudos to all of you, because even though we are not able to, I mean, I would love to do what Eliza's doing. I mean, you know, go into the fields and do that. I don't know, again, just like you, Datin Mina, I have no idea whether I can even do it, but you are able to support in different areas. And I think you said it right. You know, even though we can't do what another person is doing, another sister is doing, we can always support them differently. And it can be in various ways. You know, coming in from the corporation, coming in individually, it can be in various ways. So I think that sisterhood needs to go on. And again, I'm very happy you brought that in, because I'm just going to, you know, slide that into my next question that's coming before we end. We're at 3:47, so we're ending at 4. But before we end, to all our participants who are here, if you have any more questions, feel free to drop it in, or if you have an opinion or like an insight into what we're talking about, please feel free to talk to us. I'd love to hear your opinion on the Q&A. I do hope you're enjoying the conversation. Now, to the three speakers, just before we end, I'd like to ask this. Most societies, again, we're looking at out of Malaysia, everywhere. In MSF's case, you know, we're in 70 different communities, with 70 different countries. We're working with communities. We do work with a lot of women. And oftentimes in a lot of societies, the women are not economically valued. They're not looked at, you know, and the problem basically may not literally lie with the women, even though we feel that, you know, we are the ones holding ourselves back. But it also probably is because of the perception of men. And specifically how they view and treat women. So I just want to ask this to the three of you. In the course of your work, in the course of your life, in your philanthropic endeavor, have you ever come across any of these kind of situations? And if so, if yes, you have, then how do you ensure that there's equal involvement from both sides? And it can come in from any perspectives. Anyone, Eliza or Datin, Dato, any one of you want to pick up on this?
Yeah, maybe I'll start. I mean, talking about women, you know, not being economically empowered. So I have been able to do what I have been able to do because I had really great childcare. My mother-in-law is like amazing, and she's just kept an eye on everyone, and I couldn't do it without her. But secondly, I had this amazing nanny. So she came to us because she had 8 children of her own, and you know, it's really the typical stereotypical kind of story. Married very young, uneducated, in a fishing village, started having multiple children very quickly. Soon the husband becomes a drunkard, you know, he drinks, he becomes abusive, right? And then it's so sad that, you know, she even had to give away 2 of her children because they couldn't afford to care for all of them. And finally, you know, when she had her 8th child, the oldest was kind of a teenager and old enough to help her care for the youngest child. So at that point, she said, I can't take this anymore. I can't take this abuse, and I can't take not being able to, you know, take care of my own kids because I am being, you know, suppressed in this way. And so she left the very young child, her 8th, with the older daughter, and came to Kuala Lumpur to look for a job. And so she became a nanny. And through being a nanny, she saved all her money. She would send it home to her kids. And, you know, I mean, that is really this typical story. And, you know, how could we have stopped that, right? I mean, she is really lucky now that her kids still really appreciate her. So she has some that have become successful. And, you know, she's now living the good life. She's actually going now, she'll call us and she'll say, oh, I'm going to Taiwan soon, or I'm going to trip to China. And yeah, her kids really value her for all that she did. But I feel that, you know, the key to her problem was she was not educated. She couldn't read and write. She couldn't get out there to find a job when she needed it. And this husband stood in the way, right? And she had to do such a drastic thing. I mean, to leave your family to entrust a baby into the hands of a teenager, that's not easy. And so, I mean, for me, education is so important. That's why I invest a lot of my time in that, to make sure that, you know, kids get a good education, to get a good start in life, and especially girl kids, right? I think that will unlock so much for their future.
Very true. Very true.
Agree.
I think education is the root cause for everything when it comes to girl child and women and awareness raising.
Yeah.
Datin Mina, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's
very quickly.
education is a great leveler, but apart from education, in Malaysia, you look and see there are more women in universities than there are men. But when you go down, I go back again to this whole thing about the pipeline for talent. As women go along, they come out of university, they have university education, there are more university, tertiary educated children than there are men in Malaysia. But what happens when they go through the corporate world? They fall off because they got to look after the kids, their families are pressuring to get married, and once they get married, they're pressured to have children. Once they get children, the expectation is that they stay home and look after the kids, and our parents age, and when they need care, invariably it's the daughters who actually have to come back and look after the parents. So within the family dynamics as well, we need to make sure that there's support for women to do that. And that's why this whole work from home thing is a good thing. And, for women, an alternative so that they still have their foot in the door rather than having to exit completely. So in schools and, we need to make sure that every step of the way, there's encouragement for women, and that and women are brought into the mainstream of things. Yeah. And but the support structure needs to be there. And if the government is not doing that, I think NGOs are stepping in to fill in the gaps. So it's all of this, and it's not just men who don't value women. It's also women, and sometimes we ourselves, we need to step out of our own group think, and invite young women to the table, and older women as well. Sometimes young women are set aside, and we don't listen. We don't listen to their voices enough. We think, I was a young woman once, I know, been there, done that, but that's not true. I now it's a funny story, but then it was a huge eye opener for me. I attended this conference with some sex workers, and the thing was to look for economic opportunities for sex workers. And we were talking about this. They have no education, they have no skills, So and then finally, one lady stood up and she said, "Look, I'm a sex worker, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life being a basket weaver or a dressmaker, So come on, other opportunities for me." And we were all sitting down there flabbergasted. Say, "Yeah, man, it's true. She makes a lot of money doing sex work. And then you ask her to be a dressmaker because she has no education. She's not going to do that." So it sort of like blew my mind. I said, well, yes, we are all women, but we are all women with different backgrounds and different life experiences. So if we are going to improve the lot of women, we need to make sure that women ourselves are inclusive of other women, young women as well. They need to come to the table.
I think education, as Dato Kathleen mentioned, is definitely a root cause that we need to address for young girls, young women, because that is where they start their life with some knowledge. Knowledge is always important. And again, trying to break from the norm of actually thinking uneducated women, they would need to do, say, sewing classes, basket weaving classes, or baking classes, for instance. I have to say this, with a lot of my previous experiences, we used to deal with battered and abused women. And there were a lot of times where people would come to the organization, my previous organization, by the way, not MSF, don't get me wrong, but they would come to the organization and say, "Oh, we want to give them opportunities. We have X amount of space available for a sewing class, and then we've got bakery class. So would you like to send the women?" And oftentimes the women said, "No, we don't want that. We don't want to bake, we don't want to sew, but you give us something else." And yes, Dr. Mina, you're right. It sort of opens up a whole new ballgame of conversation of what is it that you are looking at when you see a woman who's not educated? Is that what you see them doing? But they don't want it. So what can we do for them? Eliza, coming to you very quickly, because we've only got about 4 minutes left, before we end, but very quickly, your thoughts in this. If we are looking at, say, different norms for equal opportunities for both, but different norms for women, what's your opinion on this? Your final take.
I agree with the discussion earlier. It's about the education. And I think it's really, we should begin it at a young age, because like in school, like in particular, because mindsets need to be changed. And we know that all these efforts, they will take time to bear fruit. And then we must keep on going and continue to advocate for women. Like we are not like tagged forever, like women, this is what you need to do, and this you shouldn't touch, this is the man's job. Like, why not just give an equal opportunity to everyone to try whatever they want to do?
Very true. Equal opportunity. Now I have to end soon, but before I end, I've got one final question going to all three of you, and this one has to do with our participants as well, because I understand we've got a lot of young participants today who joined us. So for the younger generation, from the three of you, wise words coming in from the three of you, for the younger generation, and if they're looking at, say, seeking a balance in terms of career and, of course, deciding time and effort for the lesser fortunate, like giving back to society or contributing to society. And just like Dato Kathleen and Datin Mina, the philanthropic side of our life, if we want to do and have a balance, how or what is that advice, that one thing, in very short, what is that one thing that you'd like to tell them to do, and what can they do? Very short. Datin Mina, start it off.
I would ask for people to choose wisely, and then accept that choice, and then go forth and conquer.
All right. Choose wisely, accept the choice, go forth and conquer. I'm already feeling encouraged here. Dato Kathleen, your take.
I would say that they have to be in the mindset that it's not binary. It's not A or B. It's not work or home. It's not philanthropy or work. It is possible. This is my final take. It is possible to do all of it. You just need to prioritize and accept that not everything is going to be perfect. So
go forth and conquer.
Yeah.
Eliza, your take, coming in from Bangladesh, all the way from the field. What is your take for younger generation? What is that short, very short, your advice to the younger generation? Eliza, are you with us? Oh, I may have lost her. Eliza? Okay, I may have lost her. I think the line went down, because she did say that she may not be able to because of the. Okay, no worries. We'll hear from Eliza later, maybe. All right, so thank you so much, Datin Mina. Now, to all the participants who are with us, I'd like to say a big thank you as well. I think it's very interesting. If you want to sum the whole conversation that we had today, what we can say is that women ought to be a lot more aware of what they're doing. Women ought to be a little more bold, as Datin Mina said, go forth and conquer. There is no right and wrong, as Dato Kathleen said. Don't expect to have yin or yang, but you can have a part of both coming in together. And at the same time, if you're looking at leadership roles, or if you're looking at, leading some industry or a team or your work, I think what you need to remember is that you be who you are. You don't have to change suddenly to be a strong woman just because you're a leader, or just to show that you're a leader. To me, leadership is everything from being who you are, understanding yourself, and then ensuring that you give empathy, sympathy, and of course, as our speakers mentioned earlier, the right clarity when it comes to, that's it, I need to give you a decision. So it is not an easy world out there. It's not going to be an easy work for anyone. But I think from our three speakers, what I can take back, and I hope everyone does take back, is that life is what you make of it. And if they say go forth and conquer, hey, just go forth and conquer. You'll see the light at the end of the tunnel somewhere. Right. So with that, I'd like to say a big thank you to Datin Meena Fong for joining us, Dato Kathleen Chu, and of course, Eliza. I think she's back with us again. Eliza Chang, all the way from Bangladesh. And of course, Dato Kathleen, you're all the way coming in all the way from London to join us today. Thank you so much for giving your thoughts. Thank you for joining us. We do hope, our participants had a great time. Now, one of the other things before I go, I'd like to highlight is that there is a survey form that will be sent to you after this. So please help us fill up the survey form very quickly if you can, because, we'd love to hear from you. And if you want to know more about Doctors Without Borders, the work we're doing currently, we're running a campaign for Ukraine. If there is any kind of information you'd like to know, please log on to our website, which is Doctors Without Borders-APAC, that's APAC, for you to understand more about the work that we are doing. So with that, thank you very much to our speakers. I do hope we all had a great time, and we do hope that we can see all of you again joining us for future webinars and panel discussions. Thank you very much, Dato Kathleen, Datin Meena, and Eliza. Thank you very much.